Welcome to the Happiness Safari podcast, your podcast for happier and more meaningful life. My name is Nadine and I'm so happy you are here. Today on the podcast, I speak to Wole from the UK. I met Wole in London in 2018 when we both worked for the same yoga studio. Wole is a yoga teacher and a business improvement manager in the IT and telecommunications sector. He had a battle with stress and depression and 2 divorces, 1 personal divorce and 1 corporate divorce at the same time. Leaving the corporate sector led him into a career change and his journey into the well-being and yoga space. He derived a great deal of happiness from engaging with people and sharing some of the positive things that he has done, which has led him to a happy place both emotionally and spiritually. Most of all, raising his 3 beautiful graduate daughters as a single father is right up there in terms of achievements and things that made him happy and proud. Wole and I speak about the transition from the corporate world and leaving the security of a guaranteed income into a self-employed life in the leisure industry. We also talk about the challenges which come with that and how to overcome them. The freedom of not owing anybody anything and detachment, and why the obstacles we encounter are here to help us. From the episode, you will learn how to pursue your dreams, why it's important what we are consuming, why we sometimes need to destroy something to create something better, how to define your success for yourself, why it's important to nurture your relationships, why it's important to spend more time with your grandparents, why we have control over our destiny, why nobody is responsible for your happiness. I really hope you enjoy this episode. Hi and welcome everybody to the Happiness Safari podcast. And today I have the pleasure to talk to Wole from the UK. And I met him while I was teaching in London, and he is a yoga instructor himself. So happy to have you here on the podcast today. And welcome.
Thank you.
Do you like to tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself and who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Wole. I've got a business called Wole Yoga, and I work as a yoga instructor. And I also work with established yoga studios in the UK. Worked with 4 of them, but currently working with 1 and doing kind of front of house kind of activities, marketing, retail, customer engagement, sales, and just general, whatever he's doing to ensure an effective running of the yoga studio. I get involved with that.
Yeah.
Events, etc. So my business is really, a lot of my business involves meeting people and ensuring that they have a happy experience, I guess, at the end of the day. That's what it's about.
Yeah, definitely. And it is a lot of work and a lot of things you do. So which of the studios are you working for now? It's because of COVID that it's just 1 out of 4 now.
Yes, that's right. So I'm based in Baker Street at the moment. It's a studio called Indaba Yoga Studio. And it's quite an interesting one. So that just covers normal kind of vinyasa, yoga, dharma. I did a bit of Iyengar in the past. Things like yogasana, rocket yoga. They are 2 good studios, very big studios. Pre-pandemic, you would have about 75 people in the biggest of the studios and around 45 in the smallest of the studio. And it was a vibrant energy there, real yogis, people who are, I guess, experienced practitioners. Although there are open level classes there, it tends to, the studio attracts generally a lot of teachers go there to practice. So it's well known and well respected, It's, I think the analogy I make with it is, if you go to a Chinese or an Indian restaurant and if the majority of the people sat at the table are Chinese or Indian, then you know that you've come to one of the best places. And within Indaba, it's a lot of teachers, practicing classes all the time. There's a great energy.
Yeah, that sounds great. I have to check that out next time I'm in the UK, the energy, like in some studios in London, just because often there were like just so many people. And I never experienced that before, like being in a class with 80 people. And especially now, I mean, we cannot even imagine, because I mean, I've been practicing mostly online in the last 2 years. And then in some studios, I guess the maximum was like around 20 people. But yeah.
Actually, that's the point I was going to make. So that was pre-COVID. Now with the COVID restrictions, the maximum in the biggest studio is now 50. And in the smaller studios, the maximum is 25. And we've also built two good online platforms with great equipment. So typically the online classes also get busy. You get close to there's a few classes where you get about 70 people online and 50 in the studio, even now.
Wow.
But as studios are reopened, those numbers, the online numbers, appear to have dropped off a bit.
Yeah.
And because not everybody's gone back to work, so what you find is people who used to practice in studio would now primarily identify another studio closer to where they live. And then the online community has gone down because they want to go to studios which are open. So online business is slightly smaller, but on the global side of things, it's great to have people in Mexico, USA, and everywhere else who continue to practice online because it's a different offering to in their home country. So there's scope for shrewd business people to actually reap the benefits of both platforms.
Yeah, and I think it's also a great opportunity, actually, as much as I guess we all missed like kind of connecting in the studio, but also having the opportunity now, like to practice at home. And I feel like that kind of opened the door for many people to try it. I mean, even myself, I've never really done it. I mean, not live classes, you just practice at home yourself, but not really attending online yoga studios. And it's a different form of community, having people from all over the world.
People have to learn to embrace the changes. I mean, I was resistant to online before it became a thing, but now I enjoy it online as much as I enjoy it in person, because once you are kind of familiar with the practice, you don't actually require the visual in the online class. You just rely on the verbal cues, and you can, really flow in your practice because you listen to what's being said. Yeah, there's something to be said.
That's true. Wole, would you like to share with us your own personal journey? Was there a place in your life where you kind of started pursuing your own, happiness, your yoga journey?
So in terms of, certainly for me, moving from the corporate world, making that transition from working in the corporate world in technology to now primarily working within the leisure space in yoga was something that I think I would guess was forced on me, as it is with a lot of us. The corporate world got to a point in the business where I've grown as much as I'm going to be allowed to grow, so to speak. And the bureaucracy got to a point where I just realized that there is more to life than the security that they offered you, and the remuneration that went with that. It all comes at a price when it starts to impact on your health. You become stressed out with the type of pressure you put under. So I kind of took the opportunity, when I had it, to leave one corporate business, thinking I'm going to a smaller player within the same sector, which I did go to a smaller player. But after 8 months with those guys, again, I realized, no, it's the same thing on a smaller scale. I just decided that, well, that's it. I'm going to just take my redundancy and pursue, a life that, you call it happiness, because I did not have the reliance on building somebody else's dream when there's an opportunity to build and pursue my own. So I went ahead and built a web portal, set up my kind of my own business model for how I felt I wanted to push yoga and share that with the community. And unfortunately, I think with the onset of the pandemic, I had to take a back seat because it impacted on procurement, because I had an online shop, for example, and I was buying stuff from China. So again, that was all impacted. So I've had to put that on hold to a certain extent. I'm pretty much still building the business model in terms of looking at, what the merchandise should look like, and continuing to engage with people to identify niche areas that aren't currently being met. So in terms of me personally, I'm a lot happier in my kind of pursuit of the lifestyle I've currently got compared to what I had before. And I think probably one of the things I had planned to do was potentially spend another 2 years, probably no more than 3 anyway, within the UK, and go and live somewhere else. And at the moment, there's a number of options that I'm considering. So
yeah,
I will be looking for a one-way ticket out of the UK in the next 3 years, I suspect. Yeah.
Okay, wow. What would be your favorite option? Or your top 3?
Yeah, I think that there's an island that I'm looking at the moment, and I've got a business connection in there. So that particular island, I will spend at least the first year there building and developing the project that we've got on paper at the moment. So that's something exciting I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that sounds very exciting.
Yeah, so it's like, sometimes if you have those dreams, you need to pursue them at some point. And I think for me, again, it's one of those situations where my intention is just to leave with one laptop and a bathing suit, so that's about it. Everything else I will no longer need, will just remain.
Yeah. True. What I'm really curious about, and I guess listeners are as well, what was your biggest challenge kind of leaving the corporate world? Because you said, you took 2 steps moving to a smaller company, but I think that's a big challenge for many people. They're so scared of that transition, that move. It seems very difficult.
I think quite often when you leave, it's been on your mind for a while to go, and I think the challenge is this fear that the security of the guaranteed income, if that were removed from under your feet somehow, you wouldn't survive, But I think fortunately, if you do a bit of planning, you can actually create a buffer. And for me, I just scale down on certain things. I'm like, what? Why do I need 2 cars? I don't need any car. Got rid of the car, And then I kind of always challenge a lot of my friends, and with a simple formula that says, nobody I know on this planet, unless they need it for work and delivery, drives their car more than 20% of the time they own it. I believe 80% of the time, most people's cars just sat there on the drive at work or the drive at home. And I just said, for me, when I weigh up the economies of scale, by the time you build up what you're costing to run your vehicle, for me, it just didn't make sense in a place where I didn't need to drive because transport infrastructure is good, So it took a while. I'm like, no, get rid of it. So if I actually, and I have the conversation all the time with people. I had it just yesterday, and people, because I hired a vehicle yesterday for a day because I needed to do something. And I had the same conversation, and they're like, it's convenient to have a car. I'm like, well, if I want to get from where I am now to anywhere in London, if I wanted to go on the subway, I can get there 1 hour and a quarter maximum. This is door to station, train to destination. If I really wanted to go in a vehicle, 2 minutes, there's an Uber outside. If I didn't want to do that, I'd hire a car for a week. I said, even when I quantify all that, there's no headache with traffic violations, parking issues. I said, for me, it really makes a lot of sense not to ever own a car anymore, not in the UK, given where I live. It does not make economic sense. I can leave my house at midnight in a taxi to go somewhere. I'll be driven there and driven back. So it's a case of, okay, what do I need to make this transition? So I looked at the fact that I had 2 vehicles, which are driven no more than 20% of the time. And if you've got 2, you've been driven it less of the time because you can't possibly drive them both. So I said, okay, get rid of things that you no longer actually need. And it's need versus want. And a lot of times we have things because we want it. But in actual fact, your life doesn't come to a halt if you don't have those things. So I just decided to get rid of vehicles, and that helped me. And, I just kind of different lifestyle, I guess, where many years ago, I decided that I recognized the fact that the kind of so-called first world relies on holding you hostage to something they call credit. And that's the other thing, that people think they're happy because they can use a credit, rating to buy this, that, and the other, be it a holiday, etc. And I get companies knocking on my door all the time when I'm in the street. Oh, come and sign up for this. It's good for your credit rating, improve your credit rating. And I said, why do I need a credit rating? Oh, to buy a car, to go on holiday. I don't own a car, I don't drive. Yeah, but for holidays, well, my life is, if I don't have it, I won't spend it. That way I can sleep and I wake up, still survive. I'm not owing anybody anything. So I've been there, done it, bought the t-shirt, used one card to pay another card and all of that kind of stuff. And that's because it's something you want and it's not something you need. So the other thing I realized when you talk about happiness, sometimes the weight of happiness is a lot of us consume media, be it news media of whatever description, and people start to feel that what's being projected into their home are role models that they should emulate, to be happy or to be successful. People are made, or they condition themselves to feel, they're conditioned to feel, you've got to be like this person or that person, etc., etc. So I'm just looking at some of the external factors that create unhappiness as such, if people want to look at it that way. You're spinning it on its head, because media, the way we all consume media, be it social media, traditional media, can sometimes, those influences can be negative. So I kind of get to a point where I don't consume live media anymore. Whether it's Reuters, Sky News, or whoever you want to call them, it's not projected into my home. I'm very selective about what I want to see when I want to see it. So whereby in the past, the traditional model is people will get home from work, the television comes on in the corner, and you slouch on the couch. Like, what a waste of a life, what for? So I don't consume any of those things. So I don't. The TV comes on as an alarm at 4 a.m. for 15 minutes. That is the only time it comes on in my home. 15 minutes, hear the news on the TV, and that's it. Then it goes off. It does not come on at all for the rest of the day or the week or the month. If I wish to tune into anything on TV, I'll just watch some on-demand movie of whatever genre I'm in the mood for, whether it's romantic comedy or whatever, psychological thriller, and that's about it. So I think when people look at happiness, they need to really look internally a lot of the times, because what's going on out there is not going to make you happy if you haven't resolved whatever issues you've got in here, to be happy. So for me, those are the kind of factors that I've considered when making the transition, when kind of looking at stepping outside of the life I was living and observing from the outside and thinking, well, where is this benefiting me in my growth, on my journey as such, by continuing to follow a model, which effectively means, you've been manipulated to a certain extent, or you've been conditioned to think this is what you should be doing in life,
Yeah. I really want to come back to what you said about, I think your car, or your two cars actually, and that kind of fact of getting rid of them. Because I feel like you said your friend, or the person you talked about it yesterday, said that a car is convenient. But I feel what many people also think is that a car gives you freedom, like because you can use it anytime. But I feel it's actually doing the opposite, because it's restricting you, because you have to maintain it. You have to be able to afford it. You might, took a credit to actually pay off the car, and then you have to, pay money on insurance or on tax. And it's actually so expensive. And then I know people, they say they can't go on holiday because they have to pay the car or they don't want to leave the car in the garage for 2 weeks, or like they don't have a garage like outside when they are like away. So I feel it's actually really restricting
as sometimes to own something. And I think, I mean, there's nothing wrong with like owning a car if you really need it. I think that's a decision for everybody individually. But you said a good thing there, that you should actually be conscious and aware and like kind of go inwards and ask yourself, what is it actually what I need and what makes me happy? And then also, not look outside and don't compare yourself with like what is going on TV or with your friends or a social group, but ask yourself, what is it actually what you need? And then why do you think you need something? And then if you feel like it's still the right thing for you, then you can like own whatever you have. But I feel like also getting rid of things can give you a lot of freedom and a lot of happiness.
Yeah, for me, I'm not critical of anybody who chooses to do that, but I'm just saying for me, I felt sometimes to progress, sometimes you need to destroy something or get rid of something to create room for something better or for something new. So that's why for me, I had to get rid of things which were holding me down to a certain extent. As you said quite rightly, it affords people freedom. And that's what I was told yesterday when I hired the vehicle. Oh, yeah, but it gives you freedom. I said, fortunately, and it's not the same for everybody, I'm not living in a part of the country where, there is no other alternatives. And I appreciate people who have, children to ship around and they live in countryside. They can't make that decision. But for me, it's just not something, it was so easy not to do it. And in fact, the other thing people are conditioned to accept when you hire a vehicle, and that's why this question came up, I was told, oh, would you like to take out the insurance? I'm like, well, I've already paid to hire the vehicle for a day. And I've got like a £25 insurance for the day, each day, just in case somebody else hits you and your waiver will be less. I said, I've been hiring cars forever. I said, insurance is one of my pet hates because when I want to make a claim, they find a loophole why they can't pay me. Oh, well, it's because of this. So I said, no, I'll take my risk. I said, I've always done it. I said, insurance, if I don't need it, I never take it. I got rid of my content insurance for my home. If somebody broke in my house and I stole something, I'm not insured to replace it. And you know what? I just don't care. I'm like, okay, if they steal it, well, maybe they need it. Cool. Move on. So I've kind of evolved and developed detachment from the physical things in life. I've detached myself from the need to have this because I realize it's not a need. It's actually people want to have these things, So quite often I get into that discussion with family members. They're like, oh, you're so reckless, you should do this. And I'm like, why? Because I realized, I think there was a time when I did have insurance on the place where we lived at. And in fact, in my place, and I got flooded in my basement. And when I went to make an insurance claim, I was told, oh, the flooding came from the river, which is like 3 miles away. You knew the river was there when you bought this house. So you understood the risks. So therefore, we're not going to pay you. It's an act of God. I'm like, wow. And my neighbor across the road, they were insured with somebody different. They got their money. And I said, oh, that was the last straw. Since that day, I said, oh, no. Hell no, I don't need it. So I'm just going to leave it. Wow. But so I think expectations, what I find, and I often have this discussion with people who want to talk to me when they've had issues, with things going on in life. And I think one of the things I often share is I try not to live my life by what somebody else defines as success. I create my own internal success. What success looks like for me is what I'm going to pursue. If somebody else wishes to say, well, they try to, condition you to believe, this is what success looks like. Well, I'm like, well, cool. That's what success looks like for you, and that's absolutely fine. My life's journey, I don't see that as a measure of how I wish to define my success. If I remain in good health and I'm good to people around me, which I am, and as far as I'm concerned, I've led a successful life. I don't need to be measured by how many cars or houses or what goods I have, because when I get buried, they're not going to bury me with those things. So they serve absolutely no purpose in my life. And in terms of, I've gone from thinking you've got to have 3 meals a day and all this kind of stuff. Now I'm like, No, my body doesn't need that. The most I have is 2 a day. Most of the time it's 1 a day. And that is absolutely fine. You know? And again, that's the thing. People need to sometimes just stop and say, why am I doing this? Is it because it makes me happy, or am I just conditioned to believe this is how I should live my life because I see people around me doing that?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I love the word, I guess, detachment, like in general, because I feel, I mean, we can't take anything anyways, right? I mean, there's nothing we can take with us, basically. So it's more, what is it, what we leave behind? And are these actually other kind of values, or like a form of contribution, something like a different, form of success, what we actually achieved in our life, like which helps other people and inspires other people than just, the amount of stuff you can buy in your life. At the end of every interview, I like to ask everybody the same 3 questions. So the first question would be, what does happiness mean to you? Because you already said success means something very different to everyone. So does happiness as well?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think for me, happiness is me recognizing that I have control of my destiny, and really the only person that can make decisions that make me happy or fail to make decisions which then make me unhappy is me. So I don't look externally for happiness, if that makes any sense. And quite often I say to people, what makes you happy should be how you live your life and what you share of your life with other people. So I'm happy and content in that I don't pursue material wealth anymore. And I think we've all been conditioned to do so at some point in life. And at some point we will all make those sorts of decisions to jettison as such things that no longer serve a purpose in our life. And those are the things that will make us unhappy. So for me, what makes me generally happy is happiness and success that I would measure is the fact that I've got 3 children, for example, 3 girls. And what makes me happy is to see that some of the values that I've instilled in them, they're executing them. And in that, that they follow an educational path. They get themselves educated. Yesterday, the reason I hired the car was my daughter was going to graduate from university.
Wow. Congratulations.
Which she did yesterday. But her sister is going to be graduating next year. So I'm looking forward to that. And her younger sister will be graduating in 2 years' time. I'm looking forward to that. So for me, when you build the right foundations, and all you can do as a parent is to build the foundations for them to thrive and choose and grow, and hopefully more successful than you as a parent. And I'm proud to be able to say to all 3 girls that throughout their educational life, they've achieved higher grades consistently than I have in my life. So the degrees they've got better grades than I had. The diplomas they got, they're better grades than I had. And it makes me proud to see that. And really, they the analogy I make is that, between, for example, a tree, I always make this analogy with trees in a relationship. So if you get a tree and you nurture it and feed it with the nourishment it needs, it will grow and it will thrive. It will grow and it will thrive because you give it the attention it needs. The same with relationships, whether it's with children or whoever. If you don't nurture those relationships and give them the environment in which they can be successful, then they will not be successful.
Yeah, very true. And what is it, what do you do to be happy yourself?
Actively. For me, to be happy myself, it's just my yogic life, I guess, now. I self-practice yoga every day. And as I say, I spent 3 half days around other people in yoga studios. It's fun and interesting. And as I say, I only spend money on things that I need rather than waste. I go out and I enjoy meals out with people when I want to. I don't drink alcohol or smoke because I think the only temple that you've got is your body. Why do you want to fill it with poison? So for me, I choose not to poison my body with those things for more than 40 years in actual fact, not even 5 years. So I don't do those things, and that they make me happy. And yeah, just try and maintain good health.
Wow. I think that's actually very important. As you say, like your body is your temple, and it's also, and actually also your vehicle. Like it's the only vehicle you have in life you really have to take care of.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting, because going back to owning a car, most people, I mean, they are actually, especially I guess in Germany, they're taking so much care of their cars and making sure, you know, your car always has fuel or your car's always clean, and but then they don't really pay the same attention and like time and money on their own like body, and actually making sure that, you know, like you have the energy and you have the right fuel, like the right things you put in, and yeah, make sure you maintain it so it lasts.
Yeah. That's one of the things I say to my yoga students, of course, in class, and when I was doing a few online classes, it's just that same analogy. It's like quite often people will do that because they realize that there are consequences of not maintaining their car. Yeah, so they will spend the time and effort and money to maintain that vehicle. But often I say, well, there are consequences in older life to not maintaining your body. It's the only body you have. So it will deteriorate, like your car will depreciate, your body will depreciate and deteriorate. I often say to people, you know, spend 1 hour minimum a day doing something for your body, whether that is swimming, running, jogging, or whatever. I don't think an hour is too much to spend on your, you know, your health. And I spend at least 2 hours a day, you know, when I have the time, in the morning or in the evening, just doing something, you know, just to keep it moving.
Yeah. What was the happiest moment in your life?
Yeah. For me, I think there was a few standout moments which I think I remembered, and you know, I think the first one obviously is having 3 children, three wonderful girls. That made me happy, being a father for the first time when that happened, and you know, they keep rewarding me with their success, as I alluded to earlier. So to be able to see all 3 of them graduate in the next 2 years is another milestone, and happiness yesterday to see my oldest one graduate. And secondly, she now has a 5-month-old son. So again, that makes me proud and happy to see that. 5-month-old boy. So it's nice to be part of that experience. And for me, I think the happiest moments that I reflect on looking back are the times I spent with my grandmother. And she raised me till I was 9. So she was my first mother in actual fact. So the happiest moments I had were usually those childhood memories with her, you know, because you always had security, you know, and you didn't have the responsibility, of course, as a child, to all the understanding of how bad things are in the real world out there, you know. So those are happy. Those are really happy. And I often say to people who have grandparents around them to cherish and nourish and spend as much time with them, because their experience, till this day, still serves me. My grandmother was the first person that taught me, you know, to respect and love other people, and also to understand that, you know, life isn't really a competition. That, you know, the biggest competition I should ever have in my life is within myself, and not what's on the outside. You know, she often would say, "Don't rely on anybody for anything," pretty much, because she wouldn't do that.
Wow. I think, that's super like beautiful and true that, you should cherish your grandparents when they're still around, because, mine are not anymore either. But also, I mean, I believe you still like teach your children the same as like she taught you, and you will do that. You know, you will move on and, give that to your grandchildren one day as well. Last question, is there any book you read which really inspired you or changed your life you would like to recommend?
I think one of the books that I found inspiring growing up was Nelson Mandela's book. What is it called now? something with it's got the word road in it. The biography that I had, I can't remember the name of it now.
Yeah.
Which is still downstairs in my collection somewhere.
I'm thinking, is it The Road to Freedom?
Yeah, The Road to Freedom, that's the one. Yeah. So I found the days I was at college and university when he was still incarcerated in jail, etc. I found somebody like that so inspirational. I mean, there are many inspirational figures throughout history, but it's just during the time I was growing up, I certainly read that book, and it kind of inspired me to think, to recognize that no matter what people throw at you on the outside, you should still be this kind human being, and just shower them with love, because that's the only, and that really helps you stay strong, under any adversity. So quite often, I certainly don't let anything ruffle or trouble me quite often, and I know throughout my corporate life, the examples I had of that was quite often you would get a new manager and people would already come with this manager's reputation and tell you that, oh, it's a really bad manager, it's this, it's that, and everybody's afraid and not happy and all of that. And I'm like, okay. My kind of my reaction to a lot of those changes as such is, this is just somebody else, somebody new that I need to train and condition to work the way I want to work. That's all it is. Okay, it's just somebody else that I need to train. That's all it is, rather than somebody I needed to fear. And that's always served me. I've worked with many successful people over the years, and I've got on with them because I'm totally open and honest with them. Regardless of what their level is in the company, if what they're suggesting does not make sense for the business from where I see it, I will say to them, well, hang on, I don't believe this is going to work because of X, Y, and Z. And contrary to you suggesting that, this is what I think the business model, which will benefit us and the business. So I like to have those kind of dialogues with those individuals, and I've never had issues dealing with people. So I think, so that was the answer to the question about, people who influence you. And that's one of the things I got from reading his book. Yeah.
Wow.
Just be yourself, continue to be yourself, regardless. As long as you're a good person, there's nothing that could hurt you.
Very true. Very true. Well, I put the book in the show notes and also all your details, so people can find you and the yoga studios where you work and you teach. And if anybody wants to get in touch, is there anything else you would like to share?
Absolutely, they can. Yeah, I think that the one thing I often try to share with people is the fact that, and I think we mentioned it in the interview, that there's nobody's responsible for you or your success more than you yourself, the person here. I don't believe there's anybody on this planet who's been brought here to make any of our lives this wonderful place to live in. It's about navigating the spiraling road through life. And I'm a firm believer in that obstacles we encounter are there to help us. They're there to help us dig inside and navigate a path around them to where we wish to go. So to embrace those challenges rather than thinking negatively about things, the minute, something out of the comfort zone appears, a lot of people's reaction, tends not to help them in the longer term. Whereas when I see something that you would regard as a catastrophe or disaster, I'm like, okay, well, fine. That wasn't always there. We'll find another way. And I think people just need to just try to live their life, whereby they're not really allowing themselves to be derailed by some of those potentially negative factors. But I think, no one's here to make your life great. And lots of the challenges are really there to test and help you grow and find new ways around them, rather than push you back.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what I also get from all the things you shared is not making anybody else responsible, like for your own happiness, but also looking inside and I guess listening to what makes you happy, and then being brave enough to also pursue that and kind of keep, treating your body in a good way, and also being nice to yourself and never stop working on yourself.
Being good to people around you. I think also, as I say, one of the things I try and do is to engage in some form of charity work if I can, at least every year. And I think what I did this year is there's a charity in Malaysia, and I sent them some masks early part of this year for refugee children. They were in Malaysia. So I try to look around and support people where I can with my resources, which are not huge, but by other people's standards, they need that. So even if you could do one act of charity in a year, it's great. But it can help. It can go along. So those sorts of things, bring a smile to my face. Especially when it took like 2 months before they got the masks, even though I was tracking it in the mail. And it was nice when they finally said, yes, we've received them, So helping people where we can. And I think we all have the capacity to help people one way or another.
Very true. Very nice. I'm trying to support different charities myself. One in Kenya, where I spent most of this year. But I feel like people could actually donate, let's say, 10% of their income, no matter how much that is, right? It could be just €1, it could be 10, it could be 100 or 1,000, or depending what you earn. But we are so fortunate to live in the world we're living and in the society and having what we're having. So
we have no matter how hard we think it can be at times, we've got a privileged existence in comparison to a lot of people. And I think for me, I guess I always have synergy. I see the synergies with people who are either refugees or in war zones, because myself, I grew up in a situation where at the age of 9, there was a civil war where I was. And that's the only reason I ended up in the UK, as a result of the civil war. So I've been there and seen it. I'm in the field, I've seen it all firsthand. All the worst things that people can do to people, I visualize and actually seen that as a child. So it's easy to see common cause with people when they're suffering. I can see that, yes, if there's something I can do, I always will do so to help.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Wole, it was so nice to talk to you and so inspiring. I think you're a very inspiring person, and I admire the way you live your life. So thank you for being here talking to us. And take care. Wish you all the best. Continue
very
again.
much. I look forward to seeing some of the other podcasts once they become available.
I hope you enjoyed the interview. If you want to get in touch with Wole or visit the yoga studio in London, I will put all the links in the show notes for you. I look forward to hear your insights and thoughts on the episode. Please leave me a comment on Instagram @NadineAnneYoga. From the bottom of my heart, I would love for you to share this episode with as many people as possible to help me to make the world a happier place. I wish you all the happiness in the world. Love and namaste.